Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss. Welcome to our town. We're at Great Plains Theater. We have Bruce Dale, who is a retired executive here at Alco, where we sit. And so you came back from Texas.
I did.
And we lost you to Texas. This is all new history to some people. And I've been wanting to get you on camera forever. So here we are, and we're at Alco, but Great Plains Theater. So, and all of that ties to you and me both, does it not?
It does.
So let's talk about Alco first.
Okay.
One of my favorite things about Great Plains Theater being here are Mr. Duckwall's words on the wall about change.
Yeah.
I never walk in that auditorium and I don't go look at them and think about, it was written in the 30s and how true it is today.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. And most of us are afraid of change. We think that change is, we look at it as being threatening. We look at it as being something that we don't want to go through. But I guess I've looked at it all along as we're going to go through it anyhow.
Right.
So it's how you approach it and how you go through it makes all the difference in the world. If you had told me a few years ago, as an example, that this old conference room here that I had for a number of years as the CEO of the company would become a movie theater and a place where they do plays, I'd say no way.
Yeah.
In fact, I told our director that it wouldn't fit, but it does.
Yeah. It's kind of a little miniature miracle for Abilene, isn't it?
It really is.
I think this is one of the best visuals of revitalization that you could find in the Midwest. If you want to know what revitalization of your infrastructure looks like, come to Great Plains Theater.
Yeah,
this is exactly what it looks like.
Well, I think one of the challenges that we have, not only in Abilene, but throughout the Midwest, is the repurposing of buildings, you know, and which is what you're saying. And it's awfully easy to say, well, I'm going to go out and spend the money to build new, when in fact you've got old that can be, to your point, revitalized.
Eagle Communications, we do business in 60 or so small town communities all here in Kansas and Nebraska. I've seen this story about old buildings in every community we do business in. What are we going to do with XYZ building?
Right.
You know, we have Garfield School here. That question is hopefully being answered for Abilene.
Right.
But it is a persistent question about how to use and maintain infrastructure. Tear it down, rebuild, remodel, move out to the north, move out to the south, and you can't find a better example of a great way of making something happen than right here.
Well, certainly one of our challenges here, from that standpoint, has been a desire over the last several years to build new government buildings, and and not reuse what we've got. And the difference in money to do so is significant.
Right.
And I know that throughout the country, but particularly in small towns, what an opportunity.
Yeah. So CEO of Alco. CEO of Alco at a pretty good time for Alco.
Right.
And so I kind of shotgunned the camera here. We said we lost you to Texas. We lost you to your grandchildren, so that's not so bad
they like
for
that
you.
Idea, but
kind of bad for us because Bruce Dale was an important part of what made Abilene great after you retired from Alco.
Yeah.
Not just your business, but what you did after. You served on many boards, including this one, and you have been the guy who's been willing to go out and ask hard questions, wait for the answers, critique an answer, and then develop a plan. And that takes a lot. So we're appreciative.
Yeah, well,
Bruce.
it does, but let me say this, that I have found the people that live here to be extremely generous with their time, with their money. The things that we were able to accomplish in many of these boards was because of that. One example is right here. I recall when we wanted to do a theater, and we knew we didn't have the ability to build a new one, but let's incorporate it into the old Great Plains Theater.
Right.
And we were at a meeting trying to convince the city to participate, and they agreed to do a match program with us, which was great. And before I left that building that day, I had $20,000 in my pocket for people that were there.
Right.
Now that's being generous, and that's
Right.
saying, hey, you know, I'll put my money where my mouth is, and that's really an important issue. You know, something much smaller in scale, but we wanted to recognize our police officers in town, and we said, well, the way to do that is let's have a big picnic for their families, and how do we figure out how to fund that? So we got this sign program going, and and as you know, we sold enough signs to take that profit and have a very generous picnic for all
Right.
the Sheriff's Department and Police Department of Abilene and their families to come
Right.
down to the park and enjoy an afternoon.
And got to let them see the community support by people willing to put that sign in their yard.
And it's been-
very big thing.
Yeah, and many of those signs I
still see 'em.
They're still there.
Out in the country, I
Yeah. Oh,
still
really?
see
Yeah.
them out in the country.
I did not know those signs would last that long,
Yeah.
but they did, not
Yeah.
only in their way they were made, but people's desire to keep them.
The message needs to last,
Yeah.
so we're happy about the signs
Yeah,
lasting. Yeah.
But people here in this town are willing to help do that. There's so many other examples I could give. Certainly at Rotary we did a golf tournament for
Right.
5 years, which we were able to net out $100,000 that went to programs for kids, and
Right.
that money all came from people who were dedicated to the proposition that was important.
Right. You know, Food for Kids, I remember that was one of the first interviews we did after Eisenhower with a camera here at Eagle. And that was my introduction to the program. Well, that was one of the programs that you dedicated that tournament to help fund.
Absolutely.
Food for Kids and kids in crisis programs. Vital things that many people didn't know about. But once the community of Abilene knew the need, they acted and responded, and you were able to raise that money.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too on how that happened. You know, I think we live in our own little bubble, but we think that maybe there aren't people around us that are hungry. On the other hand, there are teachers in these schools that said on Monday morning these kids come in for breakfast and they're very hungry. They want seconds and thirds, and that began to identify that issue that they were not having food over the weekend.
Yeah.
And it became a very easy thing to fix, and with the generosity of our citizens, it has. And Julie Bestwick and that whole group has done a great job with that.
Okay, I don't get too many chances to interview the CEO of a large company. So what I'm going to pivot to is I want to talk about Abilene from a CEO perspective. I want to talk about the future, what our needs are, and how we all can help make it better. What do you think?
Well, I think when I look at the challenges of Abilene, I see a couple, three things that we need to really focus on. One is we need not to fear change.
Right.
There are things that we're doing today here that we need to expand upon. I was delighted to see that the Loves complex is well on its way to being a reality. It'd be my dream if I lived here. I'd say I would like all three of those Abilene exits to be loaded up with businesses that will pay into the sales tax base. And that would eliminate those of us who live here to have to pay so much, and it would bring people into our town. So I would always be looking for ways to increase that that tax base without raising taxes, by the way.
Right.
Which is the next thing. I'd be very careful about raising taxes on ourselves for infrastructure needs that may not be needs, may be wants. Mm-hmm. And I think that we ought to encourage businesses to come to Abilene or people to come and live in Abilene because our tax base is low. That doesn't mean we don't want to provide the services. That just means that we need to identify what's really needed. And
that's an interesting comment. I'm going to pause you on that because, see, now that's when I can smell CEO just coming out all over because what you're saying is we need to be more competitive, and in a community, taxes are a big part of the competitiveness compared to your neighbors up and down the highway.
Well, I believe, too, that whether it be a city government, a county government, or for that matter, a nonprofit organization, we need to operate those entities as a business with the same business attributes that you would have in a business. You know, and knowing that, you know, an example of Great Plains Theater here is operated by a team of people that treat their patrons as customers, because that's what they really are. You know, in a city, it's the citizens that you are serving citizens. You don't need to be thinking about anything else but other than serving your citizens, which are your customers. And sometimes people get a little bit concerned about saying, well, I want to run a nonprofit or I want to run a city as a business, but that's how you make it successful.
The measurement quotient of a business is what's often missed in some of these other things. They don't provide enough metrics of measurement that are important to their customers. They have measurements all over the place in city government, but how many of them are important to the customers? There's only about two: services level and what they have to pay for it. That's what the customers of a municipality care about.
Right. And what the quality of that service is. Is it good? Are my streets maintained, or are my sidewalks maintained, or do I have a nice new city hall?
Right.
You know, and I say, hey, you know what? Sidewalks are important.
Yeah. Well, you know, the good news is, I think, anyway, for me it is, there were some actions this year where the citizens got a chance to directly influence both of those things.
Absolutely.
At the ballot box. I think that's super healthy.
I do too.
I'm not so proud of maybe some of the efforts that we put into informing that customer base about what each of those things were, but the reality of it, you can, as long as you're living in this country, I think you'd be hard-pressed to prove the case that a vote's bad.
Right. Well, and you know, it's important to really know, though, how your customers feel, and whether that be done with a focus group or, you know, a ballot.
Or 2 ears.
Or 2 ears, you know, listening on the street. That's important stuff, okay? Yeah. And so, yeah, the people spoke. And I think the challenge now is, okay, what's the next step? And
so I wore a softball answer for you today right here on my coat. So I'm going to ask you the branding question. I've heard this question over and over and over and over and over. I have my own set of answers, but I will preface this with the thought, I do think that Abilene needs to grasp that we need to be branded and what that means. I'm not sure we've got our grip on it yet.
You know, what is a brand? And you know, that's how people identify you. You know, a good brand will be singular. You know, people hear that, you know, we're the end of the Chisholm Trail, we're the Greyhound capital, we're the meanest town in the West. We're also the place where Ike grew up. And I think you know, the challenge is to select the thing that has longevity attached to it and has importance attached to it. And you know, not too many places in America can say that they're the home of a presidential library and museum and tomb and boyhood home. I mean, we should just absolutely yell Ike, you know. And I was at a meeting over in Topeka not too long ago, and somebody said, well, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Abilene. And this was people involved in government, and I said, you know, the home of Eisenhower. Really? You know, and it's just
that's amazing. It happens to me too.
And you know, when you say, wow, if we ought to be, if you say Abilene, you ought to instantly see a picture of Ike in your mind. And you know, some efforts that we had over the years to try to better solidify that were successful. Others. Like the renaming of Buckeye was not.
Well, but we tried, though.
We tried, and all those are important things. And branding is so critical. How do you separate yourself, differentiate yourself from all the other thousands of cities that are out there?
All of them historical, by the way.
All of them historical, all of them with a cowboy background, a rodeo background. But how about a presidential background?
So if you weren't running off to Texas to spend time with grandkids and be a golfer, I have another good idea for you that I could sick you on.
Let's do it maybe from long distance.
All right, Loves.
Yeah.
Going to bring a lot of traffic in Loves.
Absolutely.
A little road goes down by Russell Stover.
Yep.
Turns back to the east, comes into Abilene. Right at the exit of Loves, we should have our little diagram of 5 stars. on the pavement.
Yeah.
Not the yellow brick road, but 5 stars. All because every place in Kansas got a yellow brick road. We could have 5 stars leading into downtown.
And you know that again, the number of people that will pull into Love's now and not know that they're within a couple of miles of the Eisenhower.
Well, the sign would explain the stars, right? Yep. It's notification. But if you're going to put up one sign, you need one thing to say. You can't put everything on one physical sign.
That's the importance of a singular brand, and that's, in my opinion, it's Eisenhower.
So this is the fun part for me. I agree, but in today's world, we're not stuck with a single message. I agree, singular brand, hot iron on a hip of a cow, right? Brand, singular. But when you're buying a cow, you get to look at the whole cow. Abilene has a lot of these other things, and in today's media world, we can message all those things. It doesn't change our singularity of the brand. We can message all this stuff anytime anybody wants.
And to the advantage of those subordinate type of mini brands. Okay?
That's right.
But you've got to have the major brand fully understood.
And then if you want to say, hey, agree.
I'm at the Chisholm Trail, into the Chisholm Trail, I'm the home of Greyhound, those are all important things, but they can tag along with Eisenhower.
So I'm using you a little bit here because I've been in a meeting where it was said, a young person said to me, well, I think this Eisenhower thing's been overdone, and I said, it hasn't, and he says, how do you know? I said, because that would be impossible to be overdone. There's only 13 of these places in the country. I said, it cannot be overdone. So I then explained to them that does not press down on this other message you want to deliver. It lifts it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And it should. You know, we should be grateful that we have multiple reasons to stop by here. What's the one with the most? It's Eisenhower. 200,000 people a year manage to find their way down to that that facility.
With very little help from anybody.
With very little help, okay. Very little help.
Yeah, okay. So, Abilene branding, I'm with you. What else?
Well, I think that the other thing that I would really encourage everybody to do is to get involved. Get involved with city government, get involved with county government, get involved with local nonprofits. You know, there's a biggest license that you can get to be able to criticize what somebody is doing or what some organization is doing is to be involved. And there are plenty of avenues to do that, whether that be you know, on a board with monetary or volunteer support, you name it. But we need people to really get involved. And then that gives you the right, it gives you the authority to say, hey, you know what, I have another idea.
Building on that, the thing that makes Abilene different, Eisenhower and C.L. Brown, if you look at just two people, they were the ultimate people of getting involved. You cannot change things without being involved.
If you do it from the outside, you will either be ineffective in getting it changed or just wrong. You don't know. I love the work that I've done on, well, Great Plains Theater, certainly the Community Foundation, certainly Rotary here in town, all important ways to get things done with a team, and many others. I had said to myself when I left Alco, I said, I'm going to give back for all those years that I've worked, and I kind of initially did it out of, I need to do this. Now I can say, I want to do this. You know, I want to give back because there's so many important reasons to do so.
Small towns can't make it without people reinvesting themselves in some form of government, charitable work. We need decision makers, we need doers, and without it, small towns fall apart. The individual businesses may be operating, the individual residents may be having people in them, but the ultimate plan for the prosperity of the municipality will fall apart without leaders involved.
Always, always.
Okay, so let's answer. We only got 2 minutes, so there's a price to be paid for involvement, sacrifice, criticism, so on and so forth. But it's a price worth paying. If you're not involved, there's a price for that too.
Well,
it's called no control over success or failure.
And not only that, no control, but also you give up your right to maybe make a difference. And and that's really what I've looked at. Can I make a difference in that organization because I'm willing to give time and effort? Great, but it takes that. And I will never regret the time and money that I will put into an organization that helps the community, helps us to be better people and a better community.
We have a train going by. Isn't that perfect?
Perfect.
Right? Isn't that perfect? Right. Doesn't that just say where we are, what we're doing?
And after those years of my office being about 30 feet from that railroad track, I'm so used and so oblivious to that, I didn't even hear it.
So I want to use the last 30 seconds to thank you for your investment in Abilene.
Well, it's been a pleasure and a wonderful opportunity. And I will say this about that after being here for 12 years, many people in town still identified me as the new guy.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Well, that's okay. That's all right.
To call an old guy a new guy is a good deal. So anyhow.
You've always stepped up to every challenge that I've seen put in front of you. You've never shied away from a hard question. Whether you had an answer or not was up to the time and the thought process. Yeah. But that's a rare quality.
But it's been easy.
And I thank you for it.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the support that you have at Eagle for this community.
Thanks for spending time with us on Our Town. It's a great place to live. We've enjoyed our time today. This is Bruce Dale. We'll get him back on camera in a little while. We'll bring him back to Abilene, I'm pretty sure.
I'll drive up that road easily.
There we go. I'm Dennis Weiss. I work for Eagle Communications. Wishing you a great day.